Hey everyone, it's Gretchen here, Catnpaws. So today I'm going to bulk tea dye some papers. And let me just show you, I got a glass pan. I put it on top of a cookie sheet for support and for spillage. I use great value black tea bags from Walmart. I'm going to use 10 of them for this. I have some gloves so I don't stain my fingers. And then I need to grab my paper, but first up I'm just going to get my water started. That way I can unwrap the tea bags. Got my 10 tea bags in here. And I'm just going to let this now get hot and for this to steep. So in the meantime, let me go ahead and get my stove started. I am going to put it on 200 to semi-bake my paper, and I'll show you that. So hopefully this is something that you have the room to do. If not, you can just do it in the oven till it dries. Or if it's a nice day, you can take it outside as well. I wanted to show you too, I have quite a thick stack of paper. Well, I get this all done in one sitting. I'm not sure, last time I did probably 3/4 of that. But this time I'm using a larger glass pan. Okay, so this is what I mean when I say I hope you have enough room, because I am going to semi-dry in the oven. And then I'm going to set this out for the night to finish drying. It will be not even probably halfway dry when I set it out, but you'll see what the end result, how nice it came out. And I'm lucky to have this space because I don't have a dining room table to set up shop in my dining room. I've been heating the tea for 5 minutes and I'm pretty happy with the color I'm getting on it. So when I strain my tea bags, it will also get a little bit darker. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the heat. I had that on a medium to high heat and strain my tea bags, and then we'll start coloring some paper. Tea bag strained. I just took a spoon and pressed between the wooden spoon and squeezed out all the tea I could get out of it, and it's a nice color. So what I'm going to do first is put some paper in. You can see there it's pretty thick, probably 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch. And then I'm going to go ahead and take my tea and pour some in right on top. You can see there it wasn't quite boiling, but it is hot. Hot to the touch, and it would burn you. You can see some little floaties there that fell out of my tea bag. Don't worry about that, because when your paper dries, you'll never know they were there. They flick right off the paper. I'm grabbing another stack. You see there, tea is starting to soak in. I'm going to try to be pretty good about laying it on top, because when the paper does get wet, it will get a little softer, and it will, tear on you if you're handling it pretty rough, but also when the corners hit the side, they will curl up a little bit. Just gonna make sure I get my corners over here. I missed a big spot there, and over here as well. It works so much easier when you have two hands. Put in another stack. This is about how far I got last time, but this time I'm using a bigger pan. And I think that's really going to help me out. Regular copier paper, kind you get, Walmart, Staples. Oh, I have a piece of paper floating in there too from one of the tea bags. I don't think you can see it, but there it is down at the bottom. I'm not worried about that. I'm sure that will come out as well. And I'm just going to take my spoon and I'm going to use to fill the handle to tell me how am I doing there. And I think I got enough to keep going because I used a deeper pan. So this is my last stack. I think I'm going to go put it all in. I wasn't sure if I'd be able to get this much in or not. You can see there are plenty of tea to cover it up. And I have a little bit more left. I'm just going to go ahead and put it in there. Although I could serve myself up a nice hot cup of tea right now. There's that piece of paper. There's, you can see some of the tea that has escaped the tea bag. Just going to push it down. Make sure I'm saturating my paper all the way. And you notice I'm using the back of the spoon. I'm going gently. I'm not trying to flip anything over. I'm not trying to scoop anything up because that will tear your paper. I'm going to give this probably about 3 more minutes and we'll start moving it over to the oven. It's been 3 minutes or so since I last had you on here. So what I'm going to do now is drain this tea off. And since I didn't have it boiling, the pan is warm, but it's not scalding. So I'm just going to tip it over and dump as much as I can out. You can see it has swollen from sitting in the tea water. Try to get rid of some of the excess. You can see it coming out on the edge here, hopefully, how much more has come out. I don't think you can see me draining it, but I'm just right over my sink, putting it down the drain. Go another round on this, again using the back of my spoon, pressing down on it, trying to get the excess tea out that I can. That's less time in the oven and less time drying time. So I'm going to set my tea paper there. Raise you up a little. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. I think so. That pan we used to kind of help keep the spillage, you see I did get a little bit there. We're going to go ahead and use that now for the oven. And I'm going to take my paper out. You see there's a good many sheets. And try to drain off as much as I can without damaging the papers. So that is a very thick stack. I did rip this page. That's okay. You know what you can use those pages for are tags when you're done and it's dried. And if you wanted to wear the gloves, you could. I'll just wash my hands here in a second. Not too bad on the staining. And I'm going to pop this whole thick stack in the oven for about 12 minutes. I'm going to stick it in there, put my timer on for 5-6 minutes. I'm going to flip it and then do the other side on 6 minutes. We'll check back. The oven set at 200 degrees. It's been 6 minutes. I am going to attempt to flip this. The paper itself is not terribly warm, but you know the pan has been in the oven, so just for precautionary measures. And when you lift it up, it does get a little toasty underneath there. Flip my paper, and we'll stick it back in the oven for another 6 minutes for a total of 12 minutes. The other 6 minutes are up, and now we are going to walk out to my dining room and set this paper out to dry. Again, I recommend this method only if you have the space to put your paper somewhere that will give it a chance to dry. So you can see there I put pot holders down on the floor, and I'm getting down on the floor with it. You probably don't need to go through all this dramaticness, but I got to get my paper off of this onto this sheet right here. Let me feel how hot it is. If it's too bad, I'll have to go get my, go get my spatula real quick. Some shadows and stuff because it's dark out. And I'm going to lift up about half of it. I'm just going to lay it out right here on my paper. I'm going to grab the other half. It's really not that hot now. It cools down pretty quick, but underneath it is. Again, easier if you have two hands and you can be right over top of what you're doing. Let me show you real quick. So you see there I divvied it up. It's in 2 batches. I'm going to take my pan, head back, and pick up another batch. We can do that together. I will say this, as I get older, it's harder for me to get up and down off the floor. But if you had a table that you could lay down paper on it, and then everything would be at waist high. You wouldn't have to go through all that up and down on the floor. But that just works best for me, because that's where I keep my folded papers up. And the kids have a game on the table right now. We are back to the sink with my papers. You see there, it's pretty much has either soaked up the tea or I've drained it all out. Get that out of the way. I'm going to get me another batch. Do about probably three trips back and forth to the oven. This one's a pretty thick one as well. It's cooled down now, no problem handling it at all. But you know, it's been sitting there for 15 minutes now. And then put this in the oven again, 200 degrees, 6 minutes, flip, 6 minutes more, and we're going to stick it on the paper out there. Where I left off at, I was putting the paper out, and when you put it out, it's not going to be dry. It's actually going to be still wet, and so just take that into consideration when you put it on your surfaces and start picking off my dry pieces. But I don't think there'll be but another, well, it's been almost 12 hours now since they've been setting out to dry. I'm going to flip the paper around just so air can circulate into the center of my layers here I have. And just to give you some idea, I think if I wouldn't have stacked them so thick, they would be dry by now. But you see there, I had probably 20 pages. And that's like the edges are dry, but you can hear the middle there. Real quick warning, guys. If you do not like the sound of paper crinkling in your ears, if you have headphones, you're watching it, you may want to turn down your volume because there's going to be a lot of paper flipping after in this next segment. Paper's dry. I wanted to show you a couple of variances. So look at this. This is all bulk dyed with the tea in that one sitting. So here is paper that has not been ironed. I wanted to try it out. I've seen people talk about it on certain groups, and I think I've caught it on a couple videos where they've talked about ironing the paper when they're done with it. So this has been naturally just laid out to dry. Had those 12 minutes in the oven that just kind of took a lot of the extra moisture off of it so it wasn't dripping. And then I laid it out on the paper in my dining room, and it went overnight. It was still a little damp in the morning because I just laid it out in bunches. I separated it, and it took a few more hours. But you know, when I checked the humidity level in my house, it was 71%. So your humidity will have a lot to do with your drying time. So that's the result of just natural drying with those few minutes in the oven. And then this I took the iron and I put it on low heat. I like it, and you can see it's more paper, but yet it didn't take as much space, so it kind of compacts it back down, and it's probably twice as much as what's in this one. So this is my first time doing this with the iron, and this was the result. You can see there are some creases that when I took the iron over it, it put them in the paper and they did not pop back out, so keep that in mind. But I think despite that, even when I fold it, it will be fine. I mean, it will just look like something was maybe laying on it. I like how the edges got nice and dark. And then so this paper was ironed while it was still damp. After I did that last clip, I actually pulled some of it and took the iron to it, and it did that. And then I left it dry a little bit longer. And I grabbed my dryer sheets that were probably like 95% dry. And then this is the result. I got a lot smoother, a lot flatter paper. And then it goes back into, this was kind of wet. This one was as well. So like this group was kind of wet. So I'm glad I tried that. To keep my edges from rolling up, because they will do that as they dried, or at least they did for me, I flipped it occasionally, checked it and flipped it. I have a couple of damaged pieces because they either were on the top or on the bottom as I flipped them. But like I said earlier, you can just cut those pieces off and use them as tags instead, or something like that, or an envelope. That way they're not in your journal with the ripped edges. Unless you're looking for that look. So again, I'll show you here. This was bulk dyeing. That's what I did. I don't know how many sheets this is. $100, $150, maybe $200. You can see there are some variances with the tea dye. So there's like more white and then some streaking. There, it caught more of the tea. So you're going to have that with this method versus like hand dipping each sheet into the tea mixture and then setting it out to dry, or putting it in the oven to dry. One quick thing I want to show you too, I want to show you my last batch that had less paper. So this one had less paper, what did I say, about 3/4 of what I put in there. And so it became more saturated. This was all air dry, just those 12 minutes in the oven again, and then sit out. And I did not touch anything with it till it was dry. Excuse me. But you can see there, it's a little bit different in the color. Look how rich that got. So the less paper you put in, and the longer you let it steep, the darker it's going to become. But I like this mixture of this and that because it really looks like an aged book. Aged paper. Of course, I love the sound of it. Well, I hope you give it a try. Let me know how your results come out. One last flip. Thanks for joining me. Have a great day. Bye.